Halo time. Halo Legends was an anime anthology comprised of 8 episodes released originally on Halo Waypoint in 2009, but later re-released on DVD and Blu-ray in 2010. A different studio worked on each episode, some using more traditional 2D animation, while others fully embraced the CGI. All the episodes besides Odd One Out are technically canon, but artistic interpretation has a way of complicating things. I'm going to be using the Halo Waypoint order, even though half of the episodes never actually aired there. I just kind of prefer this watch order. I mean, every episode is self-contained anyway, so you can watch them in whatever order you see fit. I'm going to talk a little bit about each story individually, so expect some light spoilers. A group of orbital drop shock troopers need to assassinate a Covenant prophet behind enemy lines. One of the ODSTs, a young buck named O'Brien, expresses his displeasure with having to be the backup for a Spartan 2. The group end up relying quite a bit on this Spartan, especially O'Brien, who loves to complain every time the Spartan has to help him. We get some good sneaky stuff, a decent fight with a brute chieftain, and some pretty visuals. The group make it to the staging area and line up the kill shot, but that chieftain from earlier ambushes them. The Spartan saves O'Brien and the others, but is mortally wounded in the process. Big reveal, it's a girl.
No! Wait!
O'Brien completes the mission and kills the prophet, but he failed to thank the Spartan for saving him. The writers knew early on that they wanted this Spartan to be a girl. Having this absolute unit be a woman forces O'Brien to really think about how wrong his perception of Spartans was. Also, he definitely has a muscle girl fetish now. This episode reminded me a lot of the arc from Halo 3, mainly just because, you got ODSTs and a sniper rifle, I guess. That alone makes it worth watching. The relationship between ODSTs and Spartans has always been super interesting, but never properly fleshed out in the games. The novels go into it more and explain how the ODSTs despise the Spartans for being so differently built. I would have liked to spend more time exploring that rivalry, but there's only so much you can do with 20 minutes. What we do get is all golden. I just wish there was more. Years before the Human Covenant War, the Prophets and the Elites joined together to form the Covenant. This story follows an Arbiter who rejected that Covenant. This Arbiter, Fal, possesses a great strength and a noble heart. He fights against the Prophets and other Elites because they have abandoned what the Sangheili ought to value most: honor. The Covenant can't best him in a fair fight, so they resort to murdering his wife to throw him off his game. This episode ends with a duel between Thal and the Prophet's preferred Sangheili leader. This story bleeds samurai vibes, and intentionally so. The team working on this short were also working on a Musashi movie, and felt like a classic samurai story would work well in the Halo universe. Obviously, artistic interpretation is on full display here. The previous episode had a little bit of this too, as do many subsequent episodes, but the duel really goes hard with it. And I'm all about it. The Elites have always been comparable to samurai anyway, so it really doesn't seem all that odd to have them in kimonos and whatnot. What might seem odd to you, though, is the style. This short is fully CGI, but with a vibrant watercolor effect on top. I've seen some people complain about it, but I really dig it. The visuals aren't ugly. They're stylized. Some of the shots in here are genuinely amazing. Alright, disregard everything I just said. I'm not the biggest fan of the CGI for this one. It still looks fine, but, something about it just feels off. The action is pretty solid though, very reminiscent of Monty Ohm's work in Red vs. Blue. Rest in peace. The way Blue Team demolishes a hallway full of baddies as a team makes me smile. And the space scooters are kinda cool too, I guess. I skipped over the plot, but you're not really watching this one for the plot. Master Chief and his team of Spartans have to rescue Dr. Halsey from the Covenant. Pretty simple. But how did she get captured? That's the wrong question. Here's what you should be asking instead. Is Anime Halsey hot? I'm undecided right now, but let me know in the comments. Honestly, I found the making of this episode to be more interesting than the final product. There's this whole discussion about how the Japanese have a different physicality as compared to Western actors.
Yeah, and I think that one of the things that is being talked about a lot in the Halo universe, but very seldom captured properly, is the physicality of a Spartan. I think that that's another thing that these guys had to work hard to capture.
I guess I like this one the least out of the bunch, but it's still pretty good. I do wonder why they have Chief Kelly and Fred, but no Linda though.
What the hell am I supposed to do with this inside a Covenant ship?
From my least favorite to my absolute favorite. Origins focuses on, if you can't figure that out, you're not going to make it. Part 1 deals with the Forerunners, the Flood, and the activation of the Halo rings. To my knowledge, this is the first time we got a good look at what the Forerunners actually looked like, or at least what their armor looked like. Every scene offers something memorable. An interesting new weapon, a cool ship design, a terrifying monster. This episode goes hard with the visuals. Seeing Mendicant Bias surrounded by his new Flood allies, goosebumps. Many Halo fans knew very little of the Forerunners besides the breadcrumbs Bungie gave us in 1, 2, and 3. Even I don't know as much as I'd like to, but this short history gives you pretty much everything you need to know in just 10 minutes. And that's just for the Forerunner stuff. Part 2 walks through the entirety of human history all the way up to Halo 3. Cortana serves as the perfect narrator since she knows both human and Forerunner stuff. You can tell she still has Halsey's perspective when it comes to humanity. I love the way she frames human nature. We've been killing each other since the dawn of time, so when an alien faction of religious fanatics declared a genocide on humanity, we did what we do best. We waged war. Canonically, this episode happens right after the legendary ending of Halo 3. It links well with Halo 4 too. You can clearly see Cortana dealing with rampancy, and speaking of other dangers besides Halo that are still hidden in the galaxy. I didn't think it was possible, but I ended up liking this episode even more once I checked out the behind the scenes stuff. I adore the animation, and I suspect some of you recognize it from another anime anthology series. Hideki Futamura also worked on the second Renaissance section from the Animatrix. I love this dude for this and for that, but mostly for what he said when working on Halo Legends. Futamura put the fans first, so he's entitled to a little dick riding, okay? Can we go back to this kind of mentality instead of, this? Main takeaway, if you're just gonna watch one episode of Halo Legends, watch Origins, Part 1 and 2. Is that cheating? Who cares? I'm a gamer. Homecoming explores one of the darker aspects of the Halo story, the Spartan 2s. On the planet Harvest, a group of Marines fight for their lives against the Covenant. Spartan Daisy 023 rescues one of them, and the pair make their way to the evac zone. Throughout the episode, we get glimpses of Daisy's past. She and a few others escape from Dr. Halsey during their time in the Spartan 2 program. Daisy runs back home to her family, only to discover a clone living her life. Rather than kill this clone and rejoin her family, she goes back to Dr. Halsey and becomes a Spartan. But back in the present, Daisy gets ambushed. The Covenant stop the evacuation, and she succumbs to her injuries. Daisy's story is tragic. No matter how hard she tries or how far she gets, she always loses everything. I enjoyed the poetry of her needing to essentially kill herself so that she could go back to being herself. A real lose-lose situation. They really nailed a dreary vibe for this one. The bright, soothing colors of Daisy's home beautifully contrast the bleak wasteland of war. One thing though, I would have liked to have seen a bit more between Daisy and her clone besides just staring and smiling. Anyway, this episode stood for more than just her story. The writers talk about how every Spartan story is on display here, and they're absolutely right. For any Halo fan who hadn't read The Fall of Reach, this would be the episode where you realized what Master Chief went through. It adds to who he is as a character without having him say a single word. It's a really nice touch to have him show up at the end, pay his respects to Daisy, and carry on the mission. Homecoming got you feeling down? Don't worry. Prototype will make you even more sad. A group of Marines need to destroy a UNSC prototype weapon before it falls into Covenant hands. Their sergeant, a man known only as Ghost, decides to pilot the prototype so that his men can evacuate. Ghost was always the perfect soldier. He kept his emotions in check, and he only ever focused on completing the mission no matter the cost. Feelings went right through him, hence the nickname. But when he lost his whole platoon on his last mission, something inside him changed. Ghost disobeyed orders this time, and he made sure his men got out. Prototype excels at telling a story about humanity and valor. People like to dissect the minds of the Spartans, but all too often do they forget about the everyday Marines who had to deal with the horrors of war. Ghost blamed himself for getting his men killed, but the situation was out of his hands. He's just a man, not even a Spartan. He shouldn't be expected to save everyone. But logic is cringe. The emotional high you get from seeing a man go Mobus mode against all odds cannot be overstated. Studio Bones really knocked it out of the park with the action scenes, and I hope we get to see this prototype armor in Infinite one day. I like watching this and Homecoming back to back because I think they complement each other so well. They're both somber war stories that make you realize how much these soldiers have sacrificed. Also, I remember an AMV set to 3 Days Grace that used both of these episodes. What a time to be alive. The name says it all. This one is odd. I avoided this episode back in the day solely because of the absurd premise. This is the first time I've actually seen it, and I gotta say, I enjoyed it far more than I expected. Yeah, this is the story that is completely non-canon, by the way, if you didn't already get that. Somehow, we still get a more accurate depiction of Master Chief than the TV show. The story doesn't actually center around him, though. It's about Spartan 1337, a Spartan who is the complete opposite of John 117. Where Master Chief is defined by his luck, 1337 is defined by his unluck. Misluck? What is English? Lack of luck. That's what I was, yeah, something, dinosaurs, cave people, over-the-top anime fights. There's really not much to say on this one other than it's basically Dragon Ball, but Halo. It was actually something of a reunion for the team that worked on Dragon Ball, which, that's pretty cool. If you go into this one expecting a meaningful look into the Halo universe, you're gonna be let down. But if you're just looking for some dumb action and a couple of laughs, you'll be right at home here. If nothing else, I'm glad we have this short because it gave us the sad Spartan gif. Halo Legends is a beautiful celebration of all things Halo. The stories may be fairly predictable or generic at times, and the art style of certain episodes might put you off, but the final product has something for everyone. I'm gonna be honest with you boys, it's a little rough being a Halo fan right now. Infinite kinda dropped the ball in a lot of ways, and that new Halo TV show failed to deliver hope. I decided to rewatch this anthology purely on a whim, and I'm so glad that I did. Halo Legends reminded me why I love this franchise. Countless untold stories fill the universe, the aesthetics and sounds immerse me into a believable future, and the classic music, oh Lord in heaven, how I've missed you. You get tracks straight from the games, and even the Halo Wars theme gets a little love. And the new stuff hits just as hard. If you didn't already know, 343's favorite trailer music comes from this series. This is how you do Halo music. The soundtrack across the Bungie trilogy loved to incorporate previous songs into new ones. Here, every track carries an air of nostalgia while still sounding new and refreshing. Please, 343, I'm begging you, do another anime anthology. I think Halo Legends sold fairly well, but I have no idea what the budget was, so who knows if it actually turned a profit. I will say, anime has become far more mainstream now than it was back in 2010. I mean, just look at the existence of Star Wars Visions. Microsoft, you keep buying up companies left and right, pick up some anime studios or something. I want more anime Halo. I need more than just a charm in Infinite. But what do you guys think? Have you already seen Halo Legends? And if so, yay or nay? Do you want more? Is animation the best route for Halo? I'm gonna go with yes, but feel free to be wrong. And until next time, Ave Maria, Deus Vult, and tell me when the cat ears are back in the store.